Hey guys, welcome back to this course. This is the part 2 of the Android plus AWS course series. So, as discussed in the last video, we are going to use serverless computing like lambda functions on AWS cloud as our backend in this course. So, it is worth to understand the core concept of serverless computing and how it is different from normal cloud computing model, before moving forward, so that it will be clear to all of us what we are doing in this course. Okay. So first, if you see, the serverless computing is nothing but the spatial cloud computing execution module. Okay, so it's the basically a cloud computing model, but with some specific things that we need to use. Okay, so to understand the concept of serverless computing, let us consider the scenario where you have been asked to create a mobile application or web application, okay, for any startup or a small business, or maybe for yourself. You want to create an application for yourself, okay. So to create the fully functional mobile or web application, what you need to do, you need to have the server, okay, or the backend to back your data. Okay, so let's understand this concept first, and then we will move forward. Okay, so let's open the board. Okay, so what is the backend for any application, right? So suppose you have the user. This is the user because user is using mobile, or if your user is using the web application, right? These are your users. So what users will do, you will be having one backend or the server, okay, on the cloud itself, right? Cloud, right? The users or the clients will request the data from the server, right? For example, get movies. In this application we are building the movies application. So for example, user requests the data get movies. So what server will do, server will return the data, right? Also, user can create a movie on the server, right? So post data means client is sending some data or user is sending some data to the server, that is post. So we can create a new movie, create new movie, right? And it will return the success message that movie has been created, right? Then afterwards this user will be able to see the newly created movie because we are storing the data in the server. So that is the advantage, like all the users or the client will be consistent, right, for the data, right? So what are the key responsibilities of your backend? First is it is storing the data permanently, right? So storing, right? And second is it is processing the data, right? For example, when you send data to create a movie, it validates the data if all the data, all the parameter that you are sending is are correct or not. So this is the one example of processing, but other examples are, manipulating the data before sending, or marshalling the data after taking from the db to before returning to the user, right? So these are the types of processing data. So what are the key responsibility of any server or backend? One is storing data permanently, right? Storing, sorry, storing data, right? And second is processing data. The processing data is oftenly known as the server side coding, right? Server side coding. It includes the marshalling the data, or it include the manipulating the data, or it include the server side validations. Okay, so these are the things that is there. Okay, so this is the overall picture that why do we need the backend, right? So backend will store and process the data, right? Okay, so it is clear that we need backend, right? For any application to work in a real time scenario, we need backend, right? So to create the backend, we have an option to go with normal cloud computing model, right, and not using the specific serverless computing. Why to go with serverless? We can go the normal cloud computing model. Okay, so let's see if we use the normal cloud computing model to create our backend. So what are the steps that we need to follow? Okay, then we will see how it is different from serverless computing. Okay, so okay, so let me go to fresh board. Okay. So consider we need to create backend for the application using cloud computing model. Okay. So first thing we need to do, it is leveraging the cloud instance. cloud instance, right? Means machine instance on cloud, right? So first thing what we need to do, we need to have the machine instance on the cloud. So how do we do that? So if I take an example of AWS, so when you go to AWS console, this is your let's go to the home screen. So this is your AWS console. Okay, so in the AWS console there is a compute section under services, and in the compute section you can see EC2 and Lightsail, and other are also there, but these are the two main machine instances that you can leverage from the cloud, right? So by leveraging it, let's say if we go to Lightsail, okay, by leveraging these instances, it will be behaving like you have your own machine, okay, but not at your home, but on the cloud. You can do anything you want to do with that, but it will be running all the time, okay, and it is behaving like a server, okay. So you can create an instance. So suppose if I go and create an instance, right? I'm not going to create an instance actually, but I will show you the parameter that we need to take care. So when you create an instance, it will ask for the platform. You can select Microsoft Windows or the Linux or Unix, okay, and you can select the if you want to install operating system only, or the apps or the operating system, right? So second thing that we need to do, we have the machine, but it will not it will not be useful unless and until we have the application installed, or because we need to process our data, as we said, as we have seen, like for the server to work in a proper functional way, it should have two capabilities: storing the data and processing your data. So to process your data, you need to write the server side coding, and to write to execute the server side coding, you should have the runtime environment that will execute that code, okay. So the second point that we need to do is installing the software, okay. Let me pull up the board. Installing the software, right, and runtime environment to execute data processing, right, data processing or server side coding, okay. Okay, so what it means, when you go in the Lightsail is very advanced, advanced machine instance. If you go with EC2, you need to install the mean stack thing manually. But if you select Lightsail, you can select the app plus OS, and you can select mean. So what mean will be providing? Mean will be providing. It includes the latest stable release of MongoDB, that will be your DB instance. Express, okay, that will be managing your APIs. The Angular, that will that will help to create front end, but it will not be required in our case. And the Node.js. So Node.js will be the runtime environment in our case, because we will be writing the JavaScript language. We will be writing the server coding. We will be doing the server coding using JavaScript. So Node.js will be acting as the runtime environment to execute that code on the server, right? So we need to install these applications as well on our server, okay. With Lightsail, we can just select this and we can install. But if we go with EC2, we need to install these application manually on our server instance, okay. So the first step, what is the first step? First step is very simple. First step is leveraging the cloud instance. Second is step is installing the software and runtime environment to execute data processing and server side coding, right? The third step is DB configuration, right? The third step is DB configuration, right? So for DB configuration, for DB configuration we have two ways, right? One is installing the DB instance locally. Locally means on the server instance itself. Like in this case, it is installing the MongoDB on the server instance itself, right? So we'll be using the MongoDB. And the other way is using the cloud DB, like DynamoDB on AWS. Okay, so it basically it's nothing. It's basically on your choice of what you want to do. But It's always a good practice to go with the separate DB on the cloud. Okay. Okay, fine. So these are the steps, right? If we use the normal cloud computing model to set up the backend for any mobile or web apps, okay. So what are the disadvantages? Like, okay, we can do it, right? It's very easy. We just need to select the server instance. We just need to install the software, and it is done. So what are the disadvantages of this approach, right? So first is, it is not very cost effective. Okay, why is it so? Because to get the instance on the cloud, okay, just to set up the backend, right, it's not very effective. Let me show you. Okay, so if we go here, okay, and if you have selected the Unix, if you have selected the mean apps plus OS, and if you scroll down, you can see that, $3.5 dollar will be charged every month. Although first month is free, but later on you will be charged this much. And under this amount, you can see like you have memory of only 512 MB, one CPU, 20 GB SSD. Okay, this is very very less if you have installed the mean applications altogether. So it is not very much, right? And you have only 512 GB transfer speed. Okay, so it is costing you, right? It is not very cheap. It is costing you. And the second disadvantage of this approach is, you have to manage the server, you have to manage this instance, right? Right from this installing the server, keeping it up, okay, and also, keeping it up at night time also when you have no user at all. Okay, so it's not very cost effective. Also, it's not very easy to manage, right? Right. Okay, so okay, these are the disadvantages. So what could be the best possible solution for you as you are building application for a startup, and you are not sure on how much users will be using your application at the initial stage, right? And you have the traffic maximum at some point of time in a day, and you have very low traffic at some point of time in a particular day. Okay, so what if I say, don't worry guys, just come and use my server instance. Okay, I have my server instance. Just come and use my server instance to set up your backend. Okay, you you can set up, and I will charge you only for the time your users are using your application, right? I am giving you that server instance. I am not charging for the server instance. I am giving you the option to come and write the code in my server instance. Okay, and I am not going to charge for all the time. I am going to charge for only the time that your users are using your application. Okay, okay, and I will not charge when nobody is using your application. Right? Sounds good. So what it will do, it will remove the overhead of cost of leveraging the server instance, okay, because I am providing you that thing, and also overhead of managing the server, because my server is having all the applications and runtime environments installed already. You can use any language, any environment to write your server side code. Okay, so if I can provide this thing, this is the exact thing that serverless computing is doing. Okay, all these serverless cloud providers are providing these things, like for example, AWS, is giving us the lambda function for that. Microsoft Azure cloud is giving us the Azure function for this. Okay, so all the cloud providers, all the major cloud providers are providing you this thing, and this is known as the serverless computing or the serverless technology, right? Okay, so let me show you an example. So if you go to AWS management console, okay, and lambda is the serverless technology for AWS. So if I click on lambda, okay, right, these are the functions that I have written. So let's go in any one of the function, or I can create one. Okay, so let's create one function. Okay, okay, so I can name as sample function. I can use any runtime environment, right? You can see if I want to write code in Java, I can select Java. If I want to write the code in Python, I can select Python. If I want to write in JavaScript, I can select Node.js. Okay, so let me select the Node.js 12.x, and I'm keeping the rest of the settings as default, and I'm creating the function. Okay, so it is taking time to create the function, but once it will be created, you can see, you can write code upfront on the console itself, or you can upload this zip. Okay, you don't have to have the server for writing your code, right? And it can do anything. It can process your data, it can do the server side validation, it can do the authentication, it can do authorization, it can do marshalling of the data, it can manipulate the data before storing into DB. So many use cases are there. Okay, so this is the thing, right? This is your function, and you can see you can write the code here. This is the node.js code, right? You have the runtime environment node.js 12.x, and you can write your code. And also you can upload the file, right? You can go here and you can upload a zip file. So you can bundle your code in a folder, and you can upload a zip, and it will be, because if you have multiple files, you can upload a zip, and this will be executing using lambda function. How cool is that? So this is the thing. This is the lambda. This is the serverless technology. You don't have to set up your server. You just have to, ready with your code, and you can just start writing it, right? So if I show you some of the advantages of lambda. So if you go to awsamazon.com/lambda, under the overview section, you have the benefits of the lambda, right? What are the benefits? No server to manage. Just write the code and upload it to lambda, right? This is the major thing. That is the main thing. Okay. The second thing is the continuous scaling. So continuous scaling means, don't have to worry about if you have suddenly, you have the thousands of user at one point of time, and zero user at another point of time. So you don't have to worry. It will be scaling, it will be based on the users that you have. Okay, it will run the lambda functions parallelly. Okay, we will see the continuous scaling in a detailed manner as well in the later of the course. Okay, and sub-second metering, this is the major advantage. If you are building your application for small businesses or a startup, this is the major advantage that you have of using serverless technology or lambda, right? With AWS lambda, you are charged for every 100 millisecond. Okay, your code executes, and the number of times your code is triggered. You don't have to pay anything when your code is not running. That is the thing. And that's the exact reason why we are using serverless technology in this course, and why I am recommending you guys to, go ahead and use this technology, because you will not be charged anything if no one is using your application, and that's exactly you want, right? You will not be mind anything. You don't mind to pay for the things that your user is using, but you don't want to pay if no one is using your application. So that's exactly they are providing, right? Right. And if you go to pricing section, right, you can see it's very, very cheap, right? The first If you notice here, the first 1 million requests are free per month, right? First 1 million requests per month are free, and then afterwards as well, you have only $0.20 per 1 million requests thereafter. So it's very cheap. Okay, trust me, if you use it in the real production app as well, it will be very, very cheap, right? And for the duration purpose, you have, you know 400,000 GB seconds per month free. What it means? So suppose if you've written a one function which is allocated 1 GB of the memory. Okay, 1 GB is huge, but I'm considering if you have written a function that is 1 GB, allocated 1 GB of memory, and if it execute for 60 seconds, that is 1 minute, right? 1 GB function executing for 1 minute, then it is 60 GB second, right? And it is providing you 400,000 GB second per month free. That is huge. Okay. Okay, so in terms of pricing, lambda is very, very cheap. You can go and you can build your whole application, and you will not be charged, right? So so this is the thing. These are the two advantages, right? No server to manage, and the sub-second metering. This makes, that convinced us to use this thing in our course, and also it is very, very convenient to use for the small businesses and startups. Okay, so hope you are clear with the difference between the normal cloud computing model and the serverless computing model. Okay, so yeah guys, that's it for this video. In the next video, we will start our project practically. We will start creating our project, and we will start with defining our APIs first. Okay, so okay, thanks for watching. Thank you.